everybody, and welcome back to the channel where it is the final day of this year 2024's Halloween spooktacular extravaganza, whatever you want to call it. And once again, I am dressed up in my vampiness. I just haven't got the fangs in this time because I couldn't get the lipstick right and it was bothering me. So anyway, what am I doing slightly differently this year? Well, let me tell you. I am going to take you through my top 5 games, top 5 horror games, let's be honest, of all time. Now, these do change from year to year to year. There are like 3 of them that remain the same every single time. And again, they kind of change roughly where they are in my top 5. But number 5 of my favorite horror games of all time is The Evil Within. And I do count number 1 over number 2. Don't get me wrong, I love number 2. It improved an awful lot on a lot of the downsides of number 1. But I think that number 1 was still the creepier of the 2 games. Like, I actually had nightmares about Evil Within 1. The fact that there was the Keeper, the razor wire that turned people into like horrible monsters and came out of your own mind to symbolize your mind attacking you. I think one of the things that really bugs me about people who prefer the Evil Within 2 over the Evil Within 1 is the Evil Within 2 kind of really dumbs down what it means to have your own mind attack you, your own mind used against you. Evil Within 2, the villains of Evil Within 2 use their control of your mind to attack you, destroy you, break you down, whereas in 1, the villains of Evil Within 1 use your own mind to corrupt you and control you. But they can't even really control you. They're just essentially corrupting you into crazy creatures and have you run around and try your best and fail miserably to just escape. It's such a... when you look at it in that way, it's such a twisted narrative. And I could probably go into it for ages and ages and ages about how 1 represents a proper, like, neurodivergent person's mind attacking them, breaking them down into nothing, whereas the number 2 is more of a stereotypical outside influence controlling you, warping you, twisting you, cult kind of thing. That's what it represents to me. The 2 of them are very, very different. The first one is my favorite of the 2. I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with me with that. I'm fine with that. I understand that. I still love 2, don't get me wrong, because Stefano is one of the most amazing villains ever, and I still think that they should have acted on him more than they did. But yes, there is the dichotomy, the fear, the terror. As someone who has regularly battled their brain with mental health issues and all sorts of things like that, it was a very poignant game for me, and I could see myself reflected in that, which is why I love it and why it's pretty much always in my top 5, but it fluctuates from number 5, like today, to number 1. But today it's number 5. Number 4. Number 4 is Dead by Daylight. Again, really weird one, not one that I typically like. Again, this one actually falls out of my top 5 quite often, but currently it's in my top 5. I really like the way that it was one of the first major games that had an asymmetrical combat style that got big. I know there are other games and things like that, and they have kind of fallen by the wayside, but Dead by Daylight regularly kind of comes back in, and I regularly end up playing it for a couple of months every single year and just really, really enjoying it, which is something that I love the asymmetric style. I love the fact that, Killers plays very, very differently from Survivors. The different Survivors and the different perks that you have can influence the way you play, and you get the option to try new things. Admittedly, with the way the meta is at the moment, trying new things isn't a good idea, and there is some toxicity in the fandom and in the player space, but it's nowhere near as bad as some games I could name. I'm looking at you, Sea of Thieves. So yes, this is currently number 4 on my top 5 horror games of 2024. Number 3 on my top 5 is Haunting Ground, which is a game that I'm very sad to say will never get a remake, and this is probably going to be the longest section of this video because it is a game that has massively influenced me as a creative, as a person, and as someone who really enjoys video games. It's one of the late PS2 games, so it had a lot of graphical advancements compared to Admittedly, if you go back and play it now, it's not as good, but I still think this is a stunningly beautiful game. The ideas behind alchemy, as a witch, as someone who has self-professedly I am pagan, and I look into the ideas behind alchemy, to see it represented so truthfully in a game was really, really astounding. And yes, of course, they've dumbed it down so that you can play a video game and not have to worry about all of the excuse me, all of the ins and outs of like blood sacrifice and magical sacrifice and twisting iron into gold and all that kind of thing. But it really did have a fun system, and it did use like the elements, the planets, the metals. It used everything to try and create a really, really good system that I haven't seen reproduced faithfully since, and it really worked for Magic. So if you want a hint of how alchemy kind of works, again, it's really dumbed down, but it is a good, really fun place to start off with when it comes to alchemy and that side of things. So if you're ever interested, Haunting Ground is really good for that. It has an incredibly creepy atmosphere. Throughout the entire game, it changes between 4 different settings. The first 2 are my favourite. The creepy fallen gothic castle, which you can technically escape at any time if you find the secret ending, and the second kind of partially underground, partial greenhouse setting where the doll Daniela runs around and chases you. Both of those are incredibly creepy, incredibly atmospheric. The sound work for this game is beautiful and stunning, but also the most horrifying thing that I have ever had in my life. Even Project Zero 2, which is higher on the list, yes, I kind of have a spoiler, but Project Zero 2, which is higher on the list than this game, does not beat this game for atmospheric sounds. For example, when you die, you physically hear the sounds of our main protagonist being torn to pieces in several different horrific and horrible ways, and your mind does not get to blank out the sounds. You get to make up your own idea of what's going on. It's horrible, it's horrific, it's amazing, it's so much fun. Most importantly in this game though, you can pet the dog. Who doesn't love the idea of petting the dog? Huey, the German Shepherd, the white German Shepherd, is amazing, is wonderful, is a character that I have actually reused in my own games, when I'm running tabletop games, when I'm running LARP games, stories. I always have like a pet companion because of Huey. Huey is amazing. I love Huey, and if you mistreat Huey, you will fail the game. There is a bad ending that comes from you not looking after your dog, and I thought that was so amazing. And then there's the final reason why I find this game so cool, but it's also kind of fun. Not fun, actually. It's kind of weird in an odd way. I am terrified of pregnancy and anything to do with that. Not interested in it, don't want it. No, 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 no. Thank you very much for offering, but no, it's not something I want to do. However, this game, Haunting Ground, has the nickname of the Don't Get Pregnant Simulator. So, yeah, this game will never receive a remake, or if it does, it's going to be from an independent company, because while this game was amazing, the themes of the game are so, like, I don't know how it got a 15 rating in the UK. My friends, this game was an 18 rated game, because there are points where if you fail, bad things happen to you. Very bad things happen to you. If I drew an S and an A, you'll know exactly what I mean. Number 2, we have Alien Isolation, which is a game that I am sad to say, when it was originally released, did not receive the love that it deserved. What do I mean like that? I was currently working for a gaming company at that point, and we did a load of midnight releases for Alien Isolation. Do you want to know the least populated game for that year? It was Alien Isolation. Like, no one turned up to any of the midnight releases, but this game was amazing. Genuinely creepy, genuinely terrifying. A game that I have played so many times, and I want to play again, especially before the final sequel to the game has come out. It's finally been announced. I'm so excited because just the way that throughout the entire narrative, you know of the alien is going to come at you at some point, but you don't know when, you don't know where. And the AI that they created for this game was so good, so brilliant. They haven't been able to replicate it in any other game since. It learned from you, the player. Didn't matter if you got someone else to play with you, it learned, and it responded to sound. One of my favorite memories is I was sitting with a Kinect back in the day when they were the thing, and I was living with my parents, or one of my parents at that point in time, and he came in and was like, would you like a cup of tea? And I was hiding in a cupboard, and this alien came charging to me from the other side of the room, and I was like, no. Just the whole idea of that kind of thing, because it was so fun. It was such a brilliant thing. But that's not the only thing that you have to deal with on this space station. There are other humans who are desperate to survive. You and the alien, the androids that are taking over the station, and just the general disrepair that this place is in. The atmosphere of the station falling apart around you. There were hazards that weren't just the aliens or the humans or anything like that. It was the fact that like floors could drop out from underneath you. Things could fall on you which would activate the alien or the people around you, or you could use it to your advantage. It was so good, but it was terrifying at the same time because you didn't know if a wall was going to blow out and suck you into space. Never happened during the game. I don't want to give anyone ideas, but I was terrified of that happening because I am terrified of deep space. And finally, overall, it was the fact that Weyland-Yutani, who everybody knows is this evil organization, was just there in the background, constantly looking and working and trying to defeat you, even though they weren't really there. It was terrifying to know that even if you survived the alien, the biggest evil in the world was still gonna get you. It was so good, and I am so excited for the sequel. Oh man. And finally, my number one game. Now this one has not changed for years, even though I haven't played it for so many years, and I really want to, is Project Zero 2. Now, I know the Project Zero games are just some of my favourite, and 5 actually could kind of rank above 2 for me, for the only reason that 5 out of all of the games is the only one to have given me nightmares. However, 2 is the one that still haunts, echoes within my artwork, my stories, anything. When I think of horror, Project Zero 2 comes up. It was one of the first ever games to actually do headphone only sounds. Think how weird this was. On the PS2, headphones were a new thing for gaming consoles. You're used to listening to the sounds coming out your headset, but it's late at night and you don't want to keep your family up. So you put this headset on that's brand new. You've been told that this is good for this kind of thing. You mute the TV and suddenly there are ghosts whispering into your ear, telling you horrible, terrible things and secrets that you didn't know were there, because when you were listening through the TV, those sounds aren't there. It was fucking terrifying. One of the best one of the best gameplay mechanics I have ever had introduced to me, and I loved it. There is, of course, always the camera obscura. I do have several camera obscuras. They're not in this room at the moment, so I can't show them to you. They are currently in my special room, because one of them actually works. One of them is over 100 years old and works. If I can find the film for it, I could take photos. Do not understand how weird that is. It is terrifying. I have developed one set of film from that camera, and it was the one that was in it when I came with it. It was a weird photo. I don't have that photo anymore because I've moved a couple of times since then. I'm not gonna lie, I was scared. I have a camera obscura. I know how weird those things are. So the very fact that they use a camera obscura as a weapon in a game and force those ghosts to get close to you, man, there was some horrors, some absolute terror shots, jump scares. I don't know if it can really count as a jump scare because you know it's going to happen, but there's the horror of knowing you've got to wait and you have a split second to be able to make that decision to make it stop happening. And oh god, yes, it was such a good game. But the two other points that absolutely make this game for me above every other Fatal Frame game: is the horror of cult worship and the love of your siblings being corrupted and twisted into something dark and evil. What do I mean by that? The entire village of Project 02, spoiler alert by the way, skip ahead if you don't want to hear about it, but obviously it's a very old game. I'd hope you'd know about it by now. There is an entire village that belongs to this cult, a death cult, if you will, that regularly sacrifices twins to this big pit in the ground to stop it from spewing forth the spirits of the evil of the world and destroying everything around it. That is cult worship. That is a death cult. That is awful. That is evil. But it's the idea that everybody buys into it in a location and how that can be twisted and corrupted to make bad things happen. Obviously, then bad things do happen because this is a fantasy story, but it is good to see the actual real life consequences showing in the actual game. Don't get me wrong, that's not something most people would look at when they look at this game, but that's something that really struck it to me. And then obviously you have the love of your siblings and family being corrupted in such a terrible way that Miyu and Mayu are twins. They love each other, they adore each other, but they know that they are growing up and they are growing apart. And one of the two of them cannot cope with this fact. So she decides to twist the other twins' love and devotion into getting her, spoiler alert, to kill her, to end her existence, to cause bad things to happen. And it's just such a poignant thing, especially as myself being the older sibling. So anyway, I do hope you enjoyed this video, this final video for the Spooktober season. Of course, we're going to finish it off with our final card pull of the month. This may come back. It depends on if patrons decide that they like it or not. So let us do this. So Haunt This Journal is actually going to stay on the channel because I got really annoyed at the fact that I got sick and I didn't manage to finish the second page. I got more pages done last year. It was so upsetting to me. So that will keep. And obviously we're going to be keeping Dead Space because that is the main focus of the channel until it is completed. So that's what's going to happen. But however, the Hunter, sure-footedness and prestidigitation. Oh my god, that was a word. You are in good stead. The Hunter is a good card to pull. It is someone who is prepared for the future, who knows how to survive, look after themselves, move forward with life. It's a good card for us. It's just all about preparedness, all about making sure that the winter is a good time, but knowing that things will get better in the future, just working it out, survival and all that kind of thing. So I do hope that you have enjoyed this Spooktober month. As I have said before, I'm really sorry that I haven't managed to do more of the non-artwork side of things. I was so sick for nearly 2 weeks. It meant that I couldn't do what I wanted to do. I hope you'll forgive me for that, but I have managed to do a video every single day and keep up with my schedule. So with that in mind, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow when we're back to normal, just normal videos now. Thank you very much. Take care, have fun, and goodbye.